This is Join Us in France, episode 378, 378. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the podcast where we talk about France. Today, I bring you a conversation with Patricia Perry about Notre Dame. Lots of people on the Join Us in France Facebook group ask how things are going with Notre Dame. The renovation especially. We'll talk about that, but the bulk of our conversation is about the virtual reality show on Notre Dame that we saw at La Défense. It's very, very cool. You need to hear about it. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, this episode is going to be different because I'm on the road still. I'm in Nantes today, so it will be a shorter episode without much in the way of show notes. I do have a couple of brief announcements. First, that the Join Us in France YouTube channel is back. I am so relieved because I had not done anything that warranted kicking me out without warning. So it was really frustrating. And and all I got from Google was links to their terms of service. Well, I read them and I did not break them, not even close. Thankfully, on the Facebook group, David Orr suggested that I might use Twitter to do an @ mention for actual humans who might be able to help. I did that and I was happy to get a response. But of course, their response was just read the terms of service. And I was like... So I wrote back, your response, while appreciated, does not clarify anything. I read through the emails sent to the address associated with the banned account. No warning, no explanation. Then they wrote again saying, okay, we'll take a look. I said, thank you. And 2 days later, they emailed me saying my account is back. They gave me no reason why they killed the channel to begin with or why they gave it back. Moral of the story, YouTube is fickle and I would not trust them with anything important. But I am glad to be back because it's also a big search engine and people find audio podcasts on YouTube all the time. But it remains true that the best way to get the word out about this podcast is if you recommend it to someone you know who's going to France. Et voilà. That's the best way to do it. And they'll be happy because they'll learn a lot and we'll have a better time in France as a result. The other wonderful thing that happened is that I completed my Latin Quarter tour on the Voice Map app. I can't release it just yet because there are a few marketing details that need to be worked out, but it'll be live in a few days and I will post about this on social media. But the best way for you podcast listeners to get this tour is to go to joinusinfrance.com/boutique. And there you even get a discount just for being a podcast listener. So I think it's pretty good. I just want to mention the fact that the invasion of the Ukraine by Russia is outrageous. I was hoping for no war. Clearly, Putin had other ideas. I am impressed by how clearly American intelligence had read the situation. Emmanuel Macron, while he's doing a good job at harnessing the powers that be, he was taken for a little bit of a ride by Mr. Putin. And so, well done, America, on this one. And I just hope it ends quickly and that a bullet to Putin's head would not make me sad at all. I've got to say that. Anyway, at this point, it changes nothing to travel to France. I don't know if it will or not, but for now, it changes absolutely nothing. Life continues merrily in France, but of course, we are very sad at what we see happening in the Ukraine to people who didn't ask for anything of the sort. They are totally innocent, and so it's very sad. Bonjour Patricia.
Bonjour, Annie.
I had such a good time. I've spent 2 weeks here at your beautiful apartment. Wonderful hospitality, by the way. Thank you so much. It's wonderful. And it was a really productive week. For me, anyway. I don't know if you feel like...
You worked very hard. I played.
So I updated the Ile de la Cité tour. I created the Mandarin Oriental tour on top of the Ile de la Cité tour. I completely reworked the Latin Quarter tour that I had started on before the pandemic. I didn't go far off, but just enough to different streets to keep it interesting. I also wrote it, recorded it, tested it. It was a long process, but it's done. It's not quite released because we need to make sure the last little details are okay, but it's very close. Then we went to the Cité de l'Architecture et du Patrimoine on the Trocadero. It was wonderful. I was surprised by that. This wasn't your first time there, was it?
Oh, no. They have some really interesting exhibits from time to time, but it's a nice place to take people to see all of the cathedrals in France, the facades, the moulages, as they call them. So,
yeah.
And also, I love Corbusier's apartment that's there to kind of give people an idea of how he designed, his total design concept for living.
Yeah, the Corbusier Museum was really interesting because you can walk into it and you can imagine that you're living in it, which is fabulous. Then we went to the Musée de l'Homme to check out the cafe. You wanted to show me the cafe with a good view.
Yeah, Cafe Lucy is up on the second floor, and you have a fantastic view of the Eiffel Tower and the Champ de Mars, and you can sit there and have your coffee. It's just a small coffee place or sandwich, but as opposed to all the other very expensive restaurants that have that view, this one's fantastic.
Yeah, so it looked really nice, and the guard at the door even called the elevator for us. He must have been able to tell that I was tired and I didn't want to walk up, 100 steps. Anyway, and the other thing we did is we went to Éternel Notre Dame. So I think they're calling it Eternal Notre Dame in English, and we'll come back to that, and you're going to tell us all about that. And we went to la Comédie Française last night to see Le Malade Imaginaire by Molière, obviously, and I am still not over how good that play was. They are unbelievable. Guillaume Gallienne was playing the role of Argan, and he is one of my favorites, and he really hit it out of the park. And the lady who was playing Toinette, the servant, the servant has a really important role in this play. And that was Julie Sicard, and she was awesome. So, like you said earlier, what did you say? You called it 200 years. We went forward and backwards.
Yeah, with a virtual reality, we went sort of forward in time. And then we went back 200 years because the same play in the same place was created by Molière 200 years ago, which is amazing. And the comedy still works. I mean, there's a lot of physical comedy. The language is a little older, but comprehensible.
Yeah, I loved it. And I did not understand every word they said either.
Not me.
Right. Some of it goes fast. Some of it's mostly in the acting and the way the actors interact and whatever. And Comédie Française is a class act for sure. And if your French is good enough that you think you could try it, it's totally worth it. Tickets were not that expensive. It was 30 euros or something.
Right. And they're not bad seats, really. It's a small theater. I mean, there's some that are better or worse, but it's not like you're in the nosebleed section, 100 yards back. So
right, yeah. I couldn't see the left side of the stage very well where I was, but it was fine. It was really fine. It was last minute tickets. I think we got the last two.
Yeah,
and we just happened to walk by at the start of my stay, so 2 weeks ago, and then we were able to get 2 tickets. It was packed. It was very, very full. So this is a really popular thing. And this is the one place in Paris where I did not hear any English. The only English I heard was the one coming out of our mouths. So,
it's very French.
Yes. Yeah, very French. And so, if you mean it when you say you want to hang out with French people, then go to La Comédie Française, because if you go to a Shakespeare and Company, it's going to be Anglos, okay?
Yeah. The lady on my left, she clearly had like season tickets there, and she knew the play, I could tell, very well. So
yeah. Oh, they were stunning. Anyway, we're not here to talk about La Comédie Française, even though, bravo, wonderful, loved it. We'll go back. What we want to talk about today is Eternal Notre Dame, the 3D experience right now at La Défense. So take it away.
I had not heard about this particular exposition, and I think it just started in January at the Arch de la Défense. So it's a virtual reality tour complete with a headset and a backpack so that you walk around. The company that did the content for it is called Immersive. It's a small startup French firm. And they had done the VR expo at the DaVinci exhibit in the Louvre for Mona Lisa Beyond the Glass, which was very good. I went to that several times and enjoyed it every time. In that one, you were sitting in a chair. You weren't moving around. In this one, you put on this backpack, basically the computer that had the software, and then the headset. And the headsets are from a Taiwanese company called Vive, HTC Vive, and they're high-end. It's all very high-end equipment. So you're walking around, and it's a very immersive experience, because in this, there are about maybe a dozen people inside the area. And you can see the other people. They're sort of shown to you as ghosts, so you don't run into them. And the group you go with, I went with Annie, so I could see her name above her head. But everybody kind of looks like a little ghost. And then there's a leader, like it's like going on a guided tour. There's a leader, he's dressed in the time, and he takes you along to different places. And you walk along, and there's kind of a blue box. He'll come along, and your goal is to stay inside this blue box. But within that blue box, magic happens. When you first start out, you're walking through Notre Dame during the Middle Ages, a narrow street with little storefronts, and it's raining. And you get the things that are missing are you don't get the feel and the smell, but you definitely get this everything that comes from your eye and your optic nerve, and those two interacting, because you go up on platforms that move you up, and you swear that you're looking down at things, or that you see steps and you want to step on them as opposed to just shuffle along. So they do the refresh rate is very good. The resolution of the images is excellent, and the sound is quite good in the headset. So those things they've really designed well. Unlike, I think, some of the games that are sort of VR, where there's avatars and it's cartoonish, this is extremely well done. They took obviously high resolution scans of everything and put it together so when you can look around above you, behind you, you stay within context, and everything seems quite real. So what did you think, Annie?
So it felt very real, including the bits where you go up the cathedral, and I knew I wasn't moving, but your brain makes you think that you are moving up, and I'm a little bit afraid of heights, and so it was disconcerting, especially because they didn't draw any sort of boundaries around the elevator platform, and it felt like that was just on the edge, but not scary. It didn't go so fast that it would have been scary. The other time, towards the end of it, I ended up on the console of the organ of Notre Dame, and they drew it the way it really looks, with 2 steps going down into the choir part. And I was really afraid of taking those 2 steps. I mean, I knew I was supposed to go straight, like there's no steps. That's in your mind. But I got a tiny bit dizzy. It's a long experience.
Yeah, it's at least 30 minutes plus the 15 minutes kind of maybe prep time to get, in line, to get you outfitted and for instructions from the people there to let you know how everything is going to work. And although you may feel a little spooked, you can raise your hand and somebody will come to help you. They do a very good job. And I think they did a very good job in telling a story. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just whiz bang, look at this image. There was this guide walking you along, so they talk about the original construction of Notre Dame, and then they go all the way through the centuries to the fire. And then after the fire, they talk about how they're doing the reconstruction. And that's really fantastic. Some of the views that they've gotten, obviously, from drones and from, inside and outside the cathedral, are things that you will not ever be able to see otherwise. So I really recommend it if you really want to understand how it was built and how they're reconstructing it to make it back to the original mode.
Yeah. So I spent a fair bit of time when working on the Ile de la Cité tour. That's the update I needed to do, was to update the path I take going towards Notre Dame, because they had closed everything down and now a lot more is open. So I wanted to talk about the things we can see today, and quite a bit more is open, not everything. So you still have a fence about 20 meters back from the doors of Notre Dame, so you don't see the doors. For example, you see the top of the arches, and you see the row of kings and above, and on the side they put panels that talk about the reconstruction and about the fire, and it's very informative. It's really worth taking the time to read those panels and walk around that way. It looks like things are progressing, but obviously, this is 2022. They wanted to get it, Emmanuel Macron was setting a goal of reopening by the Olympics, which is summer 2024. So that's 2 and a bit years away. Is that going to happen? I'm not sure, but I think some things will be open for sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they'll find, they're obviously planning to do this, so they're going to have something open, and it will be something quite good that will allow you, maybe it'll be like a balcony where you can go see more things that you can't actually walk into, but I think they'll have something open that will be impressive.
Mm-hmm. And for sure, there will be lots and lots of people going to Notre Dame for the Olympics, whether it's open or not, because even today, there were lots of people around the cathedral every time I went. So people are very curious about the cathedral, about the progress, and it's a wonderful thing to see that interest has not faded in the cathedral.
No, and I think they're kind of testing this VR thing. It's way out in La Défense, which is a little outside Paris where all the skyscrapers are. But I believe I read in April they're bringing it to the Conciergerie, which is in central Paris in Ile de la Cité, and that in September they want to actually put it on the square in front of Notre Dame. So that'll give it a lot more visibility. Although this is going to be limited, I think now it's from Tuesday through Sunday, but from 12 p.m. to 8:30. And clearly you can only have maybe a dozen people in the space at a time. So limited slots, you really do have to reserve. And it's about, I think, 30 euros per person.
I think the price they announced is 35, but you didn't pay that. You got a discount
or something, yeah. And there's a discount for students and that kind of stuff. So
totally worth it.
Yeah, I think it's very, and 30% of the ticket price goes towards the restoration fund. So,
better.
Even better.
Yeah. If you go soon before it moves to the Conciergerie or to the parvis de Notre Dame, going to La Défense is easy. It's at the end of line 1 on the metro. So it's really pretty simple. Walking around La Défense before or after is also, kind of interesting. I would not. It's in the basement of the Arche de la Défense is where they're doing it, and so you do see the Arche. You don't go up it, but you do see it. People have asked me, is going up the Arche de la Défense worth it? I did it once, and it was fine. It's somewhat interesting. Nice views from up there. Don't know. Have you done it?
It's been a long time. So if it's a clear day, I think it's worth it to do it at least once, just to see the big axis of the Arc de Triomphe. And if you have binoculars, you can actually see the Louvre, and the pyramid. But it's a long ways away.
Yeah.
And I was going to say too, they even had they had an expo that you could we didn't have time to do a look around the whole thing, but they had like a 15-minute film there, I think, about the reconstruction. And they had lots of really nice photographs and graphics about the Notre Dame. So it was a small expo. Maybe you needed like 20 minutes, but it was nice. And I hope they keep that with the virtual reality show.
Yes, and the expo you can get to without tickets.
That's true.
Yeah, so even if you don't manage to get tickets, it's worth going to see the expo. It's kind of it leads up. They're doing it to have you wait while it's your turn, I guess. But we reserved a timed slot, and we went right in. Yeah. It was not very difficult as far as that's concerned. But definitely book that in advance if that's something you want to do it. And so I assume that so the Conciergerie, they have plenty of space in the Conciergerie. It's ginormous. So I'm not sure exactly where they'll put it, but they'll find a spot. And it's not going to close the museum. There's plenty more space in the Conciergerie for that. And then Parvis de Notre Dame. So they're going to build yet another temporary, kind of semi-temporary construction, which are going up everywhere in Paris. Did you notice?
Yeah. Tuileries, they're all over right now.
The
Trocadero has
the octagonal garden, the octagonal pond in the Tuileries is covered. There's just a sign that says that they're renovating the pond, and adding some flower gardens, but they built a massive thing around it, and so you can't see it at all. I don't know what's happening. The obelisk is also covered, so I don't know how, for how long, but I'm assuming that they're trying to beautify, big areas of Paris before the Olympics, which is probably why it's starting now. Along the Tuileries garden, so the side that's right along Rue de Rivoli, they were building big old temporary white structures there as well. They were just starting to build that when I was there last. There was a big old structure at the foot of the Trocadero for temporary something or other.
Yeah, sports or something. I don't know, but it was big.
Yeah, and it looked like it had
the fountains,
Yeah, and it had a red kind of ceiling. It looked like it was all lit up toward above head. So they're going to do something spectacular with some lights, and I don't know what it is. I didn't inquire too much. And besides those things, the workers are just there to build a thing, and they're not going to tell you what they're doing because maybe they don't know, and maybe they just don't want to tell you. So, but Paris is wonderful as always. Lots and lots to do and see. The weather this February was not bad at all. I mean, I got soaked twice in 2 weeks. This is not, too bad.
In a short period of time, you can get soaked if you're not prepared.
And I was prepared. I still got, my pants were soaked, my shoes were soaked. So it didn't need to be. I mean, it is Paris in the winter. It was a little bit cold, but not super cold at any point. So you got to be prepared. So I had two different coats. one warmer than the other because, I like to be comfortable. But lovely weather. Right now it's sunny. We've had plenty of sun while I was here. Not every day, but it was good. So, yeah. So I highly recommend you give a try to the Eternal Notre Dame experience. I think it's absolutely worth it. And if you're with kids, they will definitely love that. But even if you're not with kids, it's really good.
And they say not recommended for children under 11. So
okay, under 11.
Maybe it's because of the size of the headsets and the backpack.
Maybe. Yeah, it is pretty big backpack. I mean, they outfit you like you're going on Mars.
You think you're going scuba diving or something. But
yeah. Well, and also mask on, obviously. So you have the mask and the goggles. It's not super comfortable. And you're walking around a little bit, but not very many steps.
It's part of the illusion that you're walking entirely through the church and up on the steeples, but it's very good. It's very realistic.
Yeah. Because all the 3D stuff I had done before was sitting down. Mm-hmm. And actually they just put you on a chair and make sure you don't move so you don't fall over. This one, they want you to move around, but they do have staff, because at one point I kind of lost the virtual reality, and they had explained how to get back to it, but I forgot. And so I raised my hand and somebody came very quickly and put me on the right path again. You can't really bump into walls because they display kind of a red thing that you can tell. I kind of what's the word in English?
Brushed by people
a couple of times, but nothing bad, because you can see them.
You see their virtual image. It's not them. It's just this sort of this android type person, but you can see that.
You can see that
there's another body and it's moving around.
Yes, and they kind of appear only when you get close to them, and so they like, oh, there is a person there. Okay, but you don't really spend a lot of time paying attention to the other people so much, because they keep you busy visually with so much to see, and it's really I want to second what you said. It's very, very well done. Like, the images are lovely. Yeah, maybe some scents, some wind, something. They could improve it a little bit, but you really feel like, especially from the beginning, like you're at the at the parvis de Notre Dame before it was developed the way it is now, where you had these narrow streets, and it was a place of commerce, and it's really interesting. And then you meet what's his name?
Viollet-le-Duc.
Viollet-le-Duc.
That was good. Yeah,
you get to meet Viollet-le-Duc, and you did it in English, and you thought it was very well done.
It was well done in English. It wasn't. There weren't strange words or unusual sentences. So some native English speaker had edited this clearly.
I did it in French, and it was very good in French. It was, a tad flowery, but nothing too. But they really put a lot of thought in the writing.
Yeah, the content was very good.
Yeah, the content was very good. Historically, it was spot on. As far as I know. I mean, I'm not I don't have a PhD on Notre Dame, but I've done plenty of reading about Notre Dame, and it seemed like they were very, very well informed. And I like how, they introduce you to the workers, and they tell you more or less how many people worked on the site to make it happen. They talk about the process of building a cathedral like this. They talk about the significance of a cathedral like this, and how important it was to people's faith. And you have to imagine the Middle Ages in a world where people did not have either music or art in everyday life. It's not like they had Spotify.
No.
Normal people never had access to any sort of music or art unless they went to church. Mm-hmm. And when they went to church, it blew their mind, because it was just so different from their everyday life. And we have to remember that today we've seen so many cathedrals that it's not so surprising to us. But to the people of the Middle Ages, it must have been just shocking to see. And the vestments that the priests wear.
Yeah, they did a nice job on the clothing. Everything had wrinkles. I mean, this is very hard to do. The only shortfall, I would say, was they didn't spend a lot of time on facial expressions and eye movements, because these characters were guides and that kind of thing. It was unlike the Mona Lisa, where a lot of the focus was on the facial expressions. This was more about the movement and the structure and your motion through those spaces. Mm-hmm. So they were kind of like zombie-looking faces, but that was fine. They still had good voices, and they took you where you needed to go.
Yeah, an excellent experience. I recommend it.
Me too.
Thank you so much, Patricia.
Oh, lovely. Come back anytime. It's always fun to play with you.
Merci. I will be back. She treats me well, I come back. That's how it goes. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
The Join Us in France travel podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2022 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.